Hi, everybody. Welcome to Attack with Larry C. I'm your host, Larry Christiansen. And today we're going to witness a good example of a modern gambit, also known as the Morra Gambit, a very modern sound gambit, well, at least in the hands of Mark Esserman. Sound and dangerous gambit. One must be very well prepared when facing it. And Mark Esserman and I am based out of Boston, Massachusetts, and other places. Has been playing the Morra Gambit since he was about 2 feet high, I think. So he's quite one of the world's experts on this opening. And his victim today is the Dutch Grandmaster Loke van Vele. And somebody was saying, well, Esserman was just a little more on today. And, I think the better title of that would be when Esserman plays, That's a Morra. Okay, so here we go. This is from Orlando, U.S. Open, That's a Morra by Mark Esserman. Here we go. That's the Morra Gambit. Smith-Morra Gambit because of the Texas master, the late Texas master Ken Smith, helped popularize this gambit during the 1960s and 70s. The late Bent Larson wittily annotated a game he had with Smith, going back in a famous annotation. He says E4 C5 wins a pawn because of this. But I'm not sure how old Bent would handle it nowadays. He would have to come quite well prepared, I think, when facing this gambit, because it is very dangerous. Now, what does White get in return for the pawn sacrificed? It's a center pawn too. He gets a small lead in development. He has definite pressure along the C file and the D files. His pieces develop naturally and efficiently, and he has various plans he can pursue. Okay, now Van Vele adopts an E6 based antidote. Some prefer D6, Bishop C4, A6 here. Not the old trap, Knight F6, E5 that throws black on the defensive. One that's a line to avoid. That's a well-known Morra trap. A6 is also often seen, Bishop C4, E6, and of course, as I mentioned, D6, Bishop C4, A6. I think that's considered the main line. Then after castles, Knight F6 is playable. E5 is no longer has the same punch because black controls the B5 square. At any rate, Van Vele adopted with E6 one of the most popular anti-Morra formations. A6 is designed to control the B5 square, keeping the knight in particular on C3 from jumping into B5. And here Van Vele plays knight E7. Of course, knight F6 would invite the unpleasant E4, E5, throwing black on the defensive. The idea behind knight E7 is to shift the knight to G6, play D6, maybe B5, and stop White from ever entertaining any plan of playing the desirable thrust E4, E5. But knight E7 does have a drawback, and that is it does, to some extent, neglect much needed development. So here Esserman throws a little sand into black's gears with the pinning move Bishop G5, designed to provoke either F6 or H6. Black is not advised to bring his queen out too early, like C7 will face rook C1, and the queen will be misplaced on C7. And already, notice here's a cheap trap for the listeners here, b5, bishop takes b5 would get the pawn back with interest. So Van Velde played f6, and now Esserman backs the bishop back up to e3, and he now menaces knight a4 to b6 in certain positions. So black really must play actually knight g6, that's a mistake. He should play b5 here. Mistake that early in the game. He should play b5, bishop b3, and now bishop b7, with plans such as knight a5 or knight g6 here. White has various options. One idea here is to play knight d5, which might continue pawn takes knight, pawn takes pawn, knight e5, knight takes e5, f takes e5, d6. Now queen h5 check looks great, except black has knight g6, and the strong-looking f4 is answered efficiently by queen h4. So going back here, I think one possibility here for white, worth checking out, is queen h5 check, knight g6, bishop c2. That stops queen h4, and comes with a threat. Then queen f6, now f4, much more effective. And then bishop takes d5, f takes e5, attacking the queen. And then if queen c6, white can consider moves like rook ac1 or e6, both very typical Morra Gambit type moves. And position is wild and woolly. We can just say that much. And there's other possibilities for both sides here. But as I mentioned, Van Velde played knight g6, and this move appears to be an inaccuracy at best. Maybe just a bad choice. So now white plays bishop b3, threatening knight a4. If black can try to cover the b6 square with bishop b4, but then after knight a4, for instance, bishop a5, rook c1, white has very good compensation, because the black bishop on c8 remains passive, the bishop on a5 is out of play, and his center pawns d7 and e6 are vulnerable. Cheap shots are everywhere. But it looks like bishop b4 was actually a better choice than b5, which really does look like, after this move, difficult for black to recover. Now, Esserman strikes the thematic knight d5, threatening bishop b6. And now if rook b8, white strengthens nicely with rook c1. And then if black takes, it's going to be even more powerful than it was after white played the immediate knight d5. So he's got to take that knight. Pawn takes, knight e5. d6. That cuts the black position in two. And also now the king on e8 is very unsettled here in the middle of the board. It's usually good value to sacrifice a piece if you can be sure the enemy king will be stuck in the center at least 5 moves off into the future. And we can see here the king there's no quick prospect of bringing that king safely castled on either side. So d6, very strong move. Black's under the gun. Oh, of course, it also comes with a threat of knight takes knight followed by f4. So here black plays bishop b7, trying to at least eliminate the d5 square from white's control. Moves like eliminating the possibility of moves like queen d5. So that's forced. And now white, Esserman continues forcefully with knight takes knight. And now if knight takes knight from black, f4 or rook e1, threatening f4 leaves black helpless to meet all the threats. This is even better than f4 immediately. Completely busted. So black has to play pawn takes. And now Escherman is ruthless here in opening up lines, aiming at ending at the black king. He plays f4. Okay, so now first of all, if e takes f4, what does white do? Well, one move here that looks promising is rook e1. The idea behind a rook e1, of course, very numerous threats, too numerous to list. Bishop takes f4, bishop b6 check, etc. Bishop c5. And if black takes that bishop, then rook takes e3 check, bishop e7, queen d4 centralizing, threatening queen takes g7, as well as bringing up the final reserve, the rook on a1. And then, now queen b8 looks like a trying to trade queens, but that fails. And also, if queen takes g7, black has queen takes d6 surviving. But here white wins after queen b8 with d takes e7, queen a7 forced, bishop f7 check, double exclamation point, king takes f7, help yourself to my queen, the pseudo queen, short-lived queen, rook takes e8 forced, rook f1 check, king g8, and here white removes the guard, rook takes e8 check, rook takes e8, queen takes a7, and wins. So e takes f4, rook e1 does look pretty promising. There's also queen e1's another possibility. I would not want to play this position as black. Instead, Van Velde tried queen f6. And let's see what happened there. Now he's trying to castle queenside. Escherman never lets him breathe here. Takes on g5, e5. Queen takes e5. And now the key move. Let's keep that king fixed in the center. He plays bishop g5. Threatening mate, preventing castling. So now if black plays queen c5 check, white calmly does not fall for king h1. Bishop takes g2 check, king takes g2, queen takes g5 check, turning the tables. Suddenly black is winning. But instead, after queen c5 check, white plays rook f2, threatening bishop f7 check, and black is really has to go into the main line, what is close to the main line, and that is queen takes g5. And now white wins here with the subtle queen e1 check. The point being now, if king d8, white forces mate with queen a5 check. If king c8, queen c7 mate. And if king e8, bishop f7 mate. And after queen e1 check, if bishop e7, then white wins decisively with bishop f7 check. Now again, king d8, queen a5 check leads to mate. And if king f8, white wins effortlessly with bishop takes g6 check. If bishop f6, queen e7 forces mate. And if king g8, white wins with bishop f7 check, king d8, d takes e7 check, queen takes e7, bishop h5 check, and wins. So after bishop g5, black's really under the gun here. Escherman pouring it on with a Morra. He was just a little more on this day. So here Van Velde, the hapless Van Velde, played bishop e7. You know you're in trouble when you play moves like that. And now Escherman glides to victory with bishop f7 check and queen d2. And white's got his piece back. He's threatening rook a e1. He's got the bishop pair. the poor black king, no defense here. And it's basically he's reduced to prayer, basically. Rook AC1 check. And now Esserman launches, throws everything at the new weakness on D7. And now Esserman takes a look at the C7 square with bishop F4. That's the last finesse that he had to find. If queen takes F7 now, queen D6. Only move, queen takes F4. White wins with queen takes F4, not queen takes D7 check. And now after king D8, rook takes C6, knocks eliminates black's best defensive piece. Bishop takes C6, queen takes C6, and now black resigned in view of rook C8, bishop G5 check winning, or queen takes F4, mate on D7. That's pretty much exhausting black's resources, or king E7, rook takes D7 check, wins instantly. So black's resources are zilch, and so here Van Velde resigned. Esserman's made quite a racket out of the Morra Gambit. Beware, he's quite an authority, maybe coming up with a book, from what I understand, on the Morra Gambit. And that'll do it for me today. And thanks everyone for joining me. Take care, everybody.